السماوات والأرض وهو العزيز الحكيم. الحمد لله الذي بنعمته تتم الصالحات، ربنا لك الحمد حتى ترضى، ولك الحمد إذا رضيت، ولك الحمد بعد الرضا. صلى الله وسلم وبارك على سيد الأولين والآخرين محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له الملك الحق المبين، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله وصفيه من خلقه وخليله ومن أرواحه. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وانظر نفس ما قدمت لغد واتقوا الله إن الله خبير بما تعملون. My dear respected brothers and sisters in Islam, all praise and glory and thanks are due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We owe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala everything we have, وَلَا بِكُمْ مِنْ نِعْمَةٍ فَمِنَ اللَّهِ. Anything that is working in your life, any blessing, any good news is a favor and blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that should make you more grateful, more thankful, more humble and more responsible. Because the more Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you, the greater will be your responsibility. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا ما آتاها. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not ask you to do anything beyond your capacity, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks you to do everything that you can do. So the more you have, the greater will be your responsibility. And again, we come on every Friday to renew our commitment to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and our pledge that we made when we decided to become Muslim, when we pledged and promised that we're going to dedicate our life to Him. That's the meaning of Shahada. That's how the Prophet ﷺ presented it. That's how the companions accepted it. It's not like what the majority of Muslims understand today. That Shahada is a pledge and a commitment that from now on I am dedicating my life to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and accepting the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam as a leader. That's the meaning of the Shahada. My dear respected brother and sister in Islam, everybody in this life wants to be happy and wants to be successful. And we also want to be happy and successful in the hereafter. And the way to do that requires two things basically. One is to know the way and then to take that path or to commit to it. So it comes down always to an issue of understanding and commitment. Knowing the path, knowing what does it take, and then doing it. Knowing what does it take and having the direction and then commit to that direction and follow the path. And as I mentioned before, I think we had some issues on both levels. A lot of Muslims, they don't have the proper understanding of what does it take, or what is it that they need to do to have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala pleased with them. So there is an issue of understanding. Some Muslims, they take that for granted. Some Muslims, they think that doing the minimum will guarantee that. Some Muslims, they think that because they were born Muslim, Allah is pleased with them. They don't need to do anything. So there is an issue of understanding there. But also there is an issue of commitment. A lot of time we know what we're supposed to do, but we don't do it. Why? Because there is the channel between knowing something and doing it is blocked, and therefore the things do not run smooth, as Quran describes. Praises believers, الذين يستمعون القول فيتبعون أحسنه. Those when they come to know something, they implement it. إنما كان قول المؤمنين إذا دعوا إلى الله ورسوله ليحكم بينهم أن يقولوا سمعنا وأطعنا. The moment you come to know there is a duty of of yours or something that you are supposed to do, there should be no hesitation. So you should be always looking for the direction and then ready to implement it right away with no hesitation and no reluctance. We started the series a few weeks ago and we almost concluded it. Basically, I want to say that as individuals and as a community, in our lives we have two options. We have two options or two roads or routes. One is the option of change and progress and evolution. Progress, meaning things are getting better all the time. For you as an individual or for a community. That's a route. And there is another route that is basically managing the status quo. Keep things going. Keep things going. No need to change, no need to progress. Now, if you are satisfied with the situation we are in, then it's okay to say that let's just manage the status quo. Let's just keep things running. Let's manage the facilities, make sure that the bills are paid, make sure that there is a Jumu'ah, make sure that there is that minimum. If we are satisfied, then that's the path. But I'm sure that we all know that's not the case. That's not the case for the Muslim world, that's not the case for Muslim communities, and that should never be the case for a Muslim individual, which is to reach a point and you say that I don't need to improve anymore, I don't need to learn anything new, I'm great, whatever I am. That's a feeling that we should resist all the time, and we should never fall in that trap. So if we're not satisfied, then the only path that is left is change. And change for Muslims has only one path, which is the prophetic model, the model of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, the model that produced a great success story. And if you study it in depth, you will know that change, the required change, passes by one point, which is a solid core group of committed individuals rallied behind or committed to a mission and to leadership. That's the starting point. That's the key. Without reaching that point, we are going to continue managing the status quo. No change without getting to that point. So that's what happened. That's what the Prophet ﷺ did. Small group of dedicated people rallied behind the mission and behind his leadership in Mecca, and then the rest is history. The rest, that core group grew into a movement, and then we know the whole seerah of Rasul ﷺ. So there can be no change without that step. Our dilemma is that we want change. We know it is needed. We are not satisfied with our situations. But all what we're doing is managing the status quo. So we're living some sort of contradiction. You want something, you know the situation is not satisfactory, you want to change it, but when it comes to paying the price and doing what needs to be done, no. In our daily life, what we're doing is managing the status quo. That applies to our personal life and applies to our community life. All the work that you see happening in Islamic Center and Muslim organizations, etc., very good people with the best of the intention and doing a lot of efforts, but it is all managing the status quo. This will not produce any change if you wait for decades and we continue doing the same thing the same way. This is not going to produce the desired change. So why? Because again, we are reluctant to commit. So we want something, but we don't want to pay the price for it. And that's something that we have to solve. Either accept your situation and forget about change, or if you want change, then you have to be ready to do what it takes to affect that change. It is like someone who has an illness, sick. He wants to be cured, but he doesn't want to take the treatment or the medicine. Say, this medicine is really, it doesn't taste good, or I don't want to do the surgery. But yet, I want to get, I want to be cured from this illness. It's not going to work. And that's, a person like this will have only one option, which is what? Taking painkillers. Taking painkillers so that the pain goes away, but the problem, the disease or the illness does not go away. Believe me, that's what we are doing most of the time. Most of the time we're taking painkillers so that we don't feel the pain. We find a way to justify our situation, deny it, blame it on somebody, coming up with excuses, etc., so that we can feel good. But it's not. That's like the person who needs to do surgery, they're not doing it, and then they're relying on painkillers. Or someone who wants to be healthy, but they say they don't have the discipline to eat healthy or to exercise. Now, how does it happen? It's not going to happen. If you're going to eat unhealthy food, you're going to be unhealthy. If you eat unhealthy food and you're unhealthy habits and you're not exercising, then you have to accept that you're going to be unhealthy. Now, you want to be healthy, there is a price. There is that discipline that, so you can't wish for something, yet you're not doing what it takes to make it happen. Believe me, we are doing the same thing. And again, we talked about the rule, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ. Allah will not change the situation of people until they change. You're going to have to accept this and forget about getting it both ways. You cannot, they say, you cannot have your cake and eat it too. You can't. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ. You want your situation to change, you have to yourself changing. So we want our situation to change, but without us changing, and that's not going to happen. Now the question, how can we do that? How can we transform? Because one brother told me that maybe people are waiting to tell them exactly what they need to do. Yeah, you're talking about a lot of things, but we may have to bring this to really very practical steps. So I'm going to be talking about what is it that we can do on daily basis. Simple tasks that can help that transformation. And then we're going to talk about major things or the key to that transformation. So parallel track, small steps, we're talking about the daily things that we do, and then major transformation that need to happen. You wake up in the morning at Fajr time. The first thing that you should be doing is to be thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and grateful that He sent you back to life. Because Allah يتوفى الأنفس حين موتها والتي لم تمت في منامها فيمسك التي قضى عليها الموت ويرسل الأخرى إلى أجل مسمى. Now we die every night, and then we are sent back. So you open your eyes, thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you have another day, that you woke up alive and healthy, and to your family and everything. You see people are dying around us, and sometimes at young ages, and people getting like accident and the health problems. So you have to be very grateful. You have to have that feeling of being very grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and thankful. Now how do you express it? You go and pray Fajr. So Fajr prayer does not become a routine or a checkbox that I just have to do it. It's like breakfast and no. It is, you woke up having that feeling of gratitude and thankfulness. You want to express it, you go and pray. So prayer becomes an expression to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for gratitude and thankfulness. And also, it is your opportunity to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for guidance and protection and health and forgiveness, because you're going to need all of this. So prayer will have a different meaning, and it is no longer a routine task that we do it because we are used to. And again, as I mentioned also before, I believe that Fajr prayer was not meant that people pray and go back to sleep. I don't think that's what it was meant. Now, you don't have to stay awake, but I think that was the wisdom, that to encourage Muslims to wake up early, because you know that's a very healthy habit, and you know that most successful people are people who wake up early, to sleep early and wake up early. And if you wake up early and stay awake, you will be forced to sleep early. And that can fix a lot of things in our life, because we waste a lot of time at night, very unproductive time, and then we have a hard time waking up in the morning. So the first practical thing is to change your sleeping habits and try again. It's not going to be easy. Changing habits is not going to be easy, but if you try for a few weeks, it becomes a natural thing. That you wake up early, you stay awake, and then that will force you to go to sleep early. Now, don't let anything in your life becomes a routine task. If you want to go through this transformation, don't let anything, eating, sleeping, praying, all of these should never become routine. You should always be aware of what you're doing and why. Why? Because remember that deeds are evaluated according to the intention. وَإِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مَا نَوَى. You get what you intended. So if you're doing things without the intention, you're getting nothing out of it. So the intention is like the validation stamp for your deeds. The difference between a habit and an act of worship is the intention. You do it with the intention, it's an act of worship. You do it without, then it is a habit. So make sure to try always to be aware of what you're doing and ask yourself why. Going to work, why? Eating, why? Always ask yourself and don't allow anything to become a routine. You do everything with the proper intention. Now, starting from that point on for the rest of the day, there is something that the scholars call it wajibul waqt. What's wajibul waqt? What is your duty at this point? What is it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expects you to do or wants you to do at this moment, in this context? That's a question that you should be asking yourself all day long. Where am I expected to be? Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants me to be? And what is it that He expects me to do? And I'm going to do it with no hesitation. Whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expects you to be, you are there. And whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expects you to be doing, you do it with no hesitation. So keep that question alive all the time. That connection with Allah, or what is, because you decided to be servant of Allah. And that's what ubudiyya is about. Being servant of Allah, meaning ready to be whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to be, and to do whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to do. It's your calling. What's your calling? So your calling at that moment is to pray Fajr when you wake up. And then as you are eating, remember that this is not a routine task. You're eating because you need that energy, because you have a task to do in this life and you have a mission to fulfill, so that when you eat healthy, and that's not to look good only. That's because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala trusted you with this body that you have to maintain it in good health. So eating healthy becomes an act of worship. With the proper intention, eating healthy becomes an act of worship. If you go out and take a walk or exercise, it becomes an act of worship. If you're doing it with that intention, that I'm part of my responsibility, وَإِنَّ لِجَسَدِكَ عَلَيْكَ حَقٌّ. Part of my responsibility is that this body that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala trusted me with to manage it, I'm going to manage it properly. Why? Because it belongs to Allah. That's why you don't have the right to take out your life, because it doesn't belong to you. And that's why you don't have the right to do whatever you want with your money, because it's not your money. It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala trusted you with that money, so that to manage it, and you know that you're going to be asked about. عن عمره فيما أفناه وعن شبابه فيما أبلاه وعن ماله مما اكتسبه وفيما أنفقه. That's what you're going to be asked about on the Day of Judgment. Everything that Allah has given you, health, age, time, money, you're going to be asked about how did you manage it. Now, you're going to work, you're going to ask yourself that question of why you're doing it. It should never become something that is routine, because it's a waste. You're going to waste that block of time without the proper intention. You're doing it while you are responsible to take care, to fulfill your needs and the needs of your family. كلكم راع وكلكم مسؤول عن رعيته. It is my responsibility to take care of my needs, fulfill my needs, and not to be a burden on somebody else, and to take care of the needs of my family. That requires what? That requires me to go to work. So that's why I'm going to work. I'm going to work because of this. That block of 8-9 hours becomes an act of worship. Why? Because you're doing it with the right intention. And once you are at work, what is it that Allah expects you to do? Perfect your job. إن الله يحب إذا عمل أحدكم عملا أن يتقنه. Do your job right. As in, if we have the proper understanding of Islam, Muslims should have the highest work ethics. Why? Because you're not doing it for promotion or because the boss is around or because you're being monitored. There is something higher than that. That even if you can do a lousy job and get away with it, you're not going to do it. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching. And at that time, you are doing things, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves when you do something to perfect it. So from 9 to 5, whatever your job is, perfecting your job is your calling, is your act of worship. That you do your job to the best of your ability. As long as you are at home, what's your calling? What is it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what will make Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala pleased with you? Is to fulfill your role as a member of the family. Whether you are parents, whether you're a child, son, daughter, everybody has a role. Everybody has a responsibility to make that family harmonious and happy and successful. Fulfilling your role as a member of the family becomes your calling at that time, an act of worship, spending quality time with your children. Nowadays, unfortunately, people will be at home, the whole family, but everybody is in their own world. That's something that should be fixed. That's a big problem. We want from the TV, at least TV was gathering people at a certain point in time around it, even though that's not the best thing to do in terms of living a family life. But nowadays, even that is not there. Nowadays, everybody has their own device, everybody is in their own world. So spending quality time with your children, teaching them, that becomes your act of worship, and that's your calling. Always asking yourself, what is it that will make Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala pleased with me? Because I decided to be Rabbani, to be someone who will do whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants him to do, and whatever makes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala pleased with you. So, taking good care of your health, with a healthy eating and healthy habits, with the proper intention and exercising, perfecting your job, perfecting your role in the family. All of these become an act of. There is no way you can transform all your life into an act of worship, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. There is no way you can transform all your life into an act of worship without turning these routine tasks with the proper intention into an act of worship. Because at the end of the day, how much time you're going to spend praying? How much time you're going to spend reading Quran of the day? The day is 24 hours. This will take only a small fraction of your time. So the only way you can turn, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I did not create jinn and human except to worship me. The only way you can turn all your life into an act of worship is by turning those routine tasks, those routine daily tasks, into an act of worship. At work, there is no shortcut, there is no cheating. If you're doing business, there is no lousy job, there is no mistreatment of your employee, there is none of this. Why? Because you are in a state of worship. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to perfect your job and do whatever what He asks you, expects you to do. Even little things that you may underestimate, they can become an act of worship. Driving defensively and observing the rules, that becomes an act of worship if you do it with the proper intention. Wearing seatbelt, even if you are in a country that is not even required. So you're not doing it because you don't want to get a ticket. You're doing it because, again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to protect and preserve this body, and you don't want to get involved in an accident and then regret that you didn't have your seatbelt on. So it becomes something that you do it, again with the proper intention, becomes an act of worship. These are very small things, but they can make big difference if we can maintain that connection all the time, asking and wondering, trying to figure out what is my calling at this time, what's my duty at this time, and do it to the best of your ability. Now, when it comes to the big tasks, things that can help, needed to help transforming your life, number one, on top of everything, comes asking yourself, what is your mission in life? What's your purpose in life? Risalat hayat. Are you living for a purpose or you're just living? Ask yourself, what is your calling? A lot of people, you see them after graduating and they have a good career, they decide to go for medicine, even though it requires a lot of sacrifice, a lot of years of study, a lot of loans, and you ask them, why are you doing this? They say, that's my calling. I could not resist it. I find myself attracted. I cannot see myself doing another job. Even though some of them, they are very well paid, in having very good career, etc. Yet they abandon all of that and they go back to school. And they study. Why? When you ask, they say, that's my calling. Try to find what is your calling. And you really don't have to wonder, because this religion comes with the calling or the mission is in the package itself. What's our ultimate goal in life? Every Muslim will say and should say that my ultimate goal in life is to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala while He is pleased with me. And talqa Allah wa huwa anka radin. That's the compass. That should guide everything you do, all your decisions, all your acts, all your priorities. That should be guided by that. Whatever leads to that ultimate goal, you do it. Whatever distracts you, you abandon and forget it. Now I don't think anybody will argue with this. So if that's the case, if that's our ultimate purpose, what does it take? That's the next question. What does it take here? Many Muslims have different answers for it. One will tell you, if I'm praying and I'm fasting and I'm paying zakat and performing hajj and I don't drink, then that's it. That's what they require. That's not true. That is not true. Ridwanullah is linked to muradillah. You want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be pleased with you. If you are serious about it, then you have to do everything you can to fulfill the purpose of Allah. Infad muradillah. Try to find out what is it that Allah wants to happen and do your best to make it happen. Don't fool yourself. That's what it takes to get Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala pleased with you. Is to be thinking all the time, what is it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to happen, and do it with no hesitation and with no reluctance. So back to the question, which is, what's my calling? So there is a mission in life, there is a purpose, and that will translate into daily decisions and daily schedule and daily habits. Now, What does it take to fulfill the purpose of Allah? So we are pursuing Ridwanullah. We want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be pleased with us. We realize, and we should accept, that the way to achieve that is to work, to do everything and spare no effort to fulfill the purpose of Allah. In fact, murad Allah. Now, how this can happen? Practically, basically by working on three major tracks. Three major tracks that you work on day in, day out. One, your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That relationship needs work. It needs work to be maintained because it tends to weaken, but also it needs work to be improved and strengthened. One of the companions said, "La burika li fi yawmin la azdadu fihi qurban min Allah." He was saying that a day in which I don't get closer to Allah is a loss, is a wasted. La burika li fi yawmin la azdadu fihi qurban min Allah. So try to make sure that every day to do something that brings you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What does it take to strengthen that relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Quran. Studying the Quran comes on top of everything else. Studying the Quran, do it the same way like a student study a textbook, by taking notes and searching the meaning and etc. You know what students do when they study material and they study the textbook. One track, your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala needs work. Every day, do something to make it stronger, to maintain it, and to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Second track is the track of tazkiyah, is for you to be a better person every day. And that should be from the time you wake up, is to try to find out what is it that they can do today so that they can be a better person, because that's what will make Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala pleased with you. Tazkiyah meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you a lot of potential. You need to cultivate that potential and use it. Cultivate and use it. A lot of mental potential, a lot of physical potential Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you. You need to leverage that potential, and that's not optional. That's not optional. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to be all you can be, and that's what will make Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala pleased with you. How this can happen? It has very simple mechanism if you really are serious about it and you're committed to it. It can happen only by learning and implementing. Continuously learning something new and implement it immediately in your life. And you will see yourself a better person every day. Always look, as Rasul described, look for wisdom, look for new piece of information that is useful, because that's what wisdom is. Any useful information is wisdom. Learn something about health, learning something about family, learning something about your career, learning something about your deen, learn something new, but make sure it finds its way to implementation right away. There is no such thing I will do tomorrow. Tomorrow there should be something new that you're going to learn and implement. That's the only way we can be better person, better people every day. And as you're doing this, try to help people around you also, uplifting people. And this tazkiyah is an essential part of the deen. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ تَزَكَّى. Successful is the one who is in continuous improvement, doing self-development. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا. The one who work on himself to purify himself and improve, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called him successful. And then, as you do it to people around you, that's the job of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If you want to be like Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that's what he was doing. يَتْلُو عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتِهِ وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ وَيُعَلِّمُهُمْ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةَ. He was mentoring, uplifting people and teaching. So if you are in the business of learning and implementing, you're going to influence people by example, and you're going to share that knowledge. And that knowledge will help people around you become better people. By example, you will influence people, but also by sharing the wisdom that you have learned will also help people around you becoming better people. The third track that is essential for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be pleased with you is what you are doing on the track of Islah, making this world a better place. What is it that you're doing fi sabilillah? Ask yourself when you wake up in the morning, try to figure out to do something extra today fi sabilillah, and then hold yourself accountable when you go to sleep. What is it that I have done today? Something that I have done purely for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And maybe nobody even knows about it. You did it just for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Make sure to maximize what you do fi sabilillah, because that's a saving and investment for you with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَمَا تُقَدِّمُوا لِأَنفُسِكُم مِّن خَيْرٍ تَجِدُوهُ عِندَ اللَّهِ. These are the tracks. This is the simple daily task that can help transforming us so that our situation will change, as the verse emphasizes, that Allah will not change the conditions of people until they themselves change. Tubu ila Allahi innahu ghafurur rahim. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونستهديه ونتوب اليه نعوذ بالله من شرور انفسنا ومن سيئات اعمالنا من يهد الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا. My dear respected brother and sister in Islam, the key to all of this is that commitment that you pledge between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to take this road of transformation and change, and then consistency. The key to this is to be consistent day in and day out. And none of this can happen without you becoming addicted reader, someone who reads, very thirsty for knowledge. الحكمة ضالة المؤمن, Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam says. You are always on the look. You finish a book, you start another one. You're always looking for useful information. Any information that can help you be a better person and more successful in this life, or better prepared to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is useful information. You should be on the look for that information. And again, you finish a book, you start another one. So become very thirsty for knowledge. That's the only way that can make all of this happen. ربنا اتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم اشف مرضانا وارحم موتانا توفنا وتعالى عنا واختم بالصالحات أعمالنا واجعل خير أعمالنا خواتمها خير أيامنا من نلقاك. ربنا ارحم والدينا كما ربونا صغارا وارحم موتانا وجميع موتى المسلمين. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إنا كنا من الظالمين. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد